The reason quitting is the best, because sometimes quitting is winning. If you quit something that's poisonous, you win. So let's just go down the line real fast. If if you are a vampire and you wish to stop being a vampire, parasite, or whatever, what have you, because you know better, then you will stop enabling yourself to receive direct feeding. You gradually go from feeding, it's just different levels of feeding, different degrees of feeding. So you have a cannibal, somebody who's really at the cannibal state of being, whether you want to call it reptilian or whatever, that state of being a cannibal. Because of course reptiles eat their own. They lay eggs and leave them, and they're not in their children's lives. That's the reptile faculty. It's just perpetuation of life itself, and no dreaming, because it's basically always in the dream state. So they're cannibals. Reptiles are cannibal. So you can have literal cannibals that are on this earth. Then you have people that eat other animated beings, because that's what an animal is. The body is animal, it's animated. So eating another animated being is also cannibalism. So you go from that state to vegetarian, vegan. Then you realize, from the vegetarian to vegan to raw vegan or whatever, then you're getting into the state where you realize how much you feed off the emotions of other people. So you went from a state of literally eating flesh, being a cannibal, to, realizing just how much you eat off people's emotions by triggering your own emotions. And again, that's just abusing organs. If you abuse anger, you're abusing the liver. If you are abusing anxiety, you might call it boredom or whatever you call that. Eating out of boredom and all that's abusing anxiety, because you perpetuate the cycle and the pressures throughout the cycle of a day. You succumb at a certain time of day that puts pressure on the organs at a certain time. You breathe a certain way, and the cycle just continues to repeat, and then you stay in an anxiety mode because it's an excuse to continue to be the beast and to make more excuses, perpetuate excuses. What I mean? Because when you get confronted with what you wanted, you realize you just wanted excuses. So anyway, you go from that state of veganism, raw veganism, to eating emotions. You're eating the emotions of people. So then you realize, you go to public places. You move around, whatever it is, to get the blood flowing, and then you start to feed off ambient energy of life itself. Prana coming back. It's just how you breathe. That's all karma is the way you breathe. So how do you manage each breath? So you're going from different levels of feeding, because the body is always feeding. You just tune it to different densities of feeding, whether you're being a fucking cannibal, or if you're eating vegetarian and eating eggs and milk, or you're vegan, or you're raw vegan, or you're liquidarian. And even still, you got to realize that the emotion of the human vessel, which is the god of earth, which is the devil, because of course 3D is where we experience separation, and the body is, the body you see with the 3D eyes is the finite body. So that's the beast. And its reflections. And everything you hear is an echo of the beast. Everything you see is a reflection of the beast. So you go into different levels and different degrees, or different, densities of vibration. Again, this is how light is sound, because it's all vibration. And once you pierce you're piercing the void eventually. The only way you can get to that piercing the void and oneness with God, which makes you God, only way to get to that is to stop feeding. So the more you feed, the more you enable yourself, because your soul is going to basically bait other souls in, so that your soul's baiting other souls so that it can for help. But then your parasites, again, your metaphysical parasites, are your thoughts and your personas. Every persona you have for every person you have is a parasite that eats away at your true essence. So, and then that creates, emotional burning out. You burn out emotionally trying to prop up the personas, then you eat emotionally, which gives you physical parasites. And then that drives you to stay in that cycle because the physical parasites now latch hold and you're feeding all these parasites on different levels. It's no separation because everything's touching everything. This is how love and hate are the same thing, whatever. It's no thin lines between anything. Everything's touching everything. So you have no choice. You have the illusion of choice in life. You have different perspectives. That's all you can do. Just one path, different ways of looking at the one path, from self to self, while being self the whole time. You just perceive it however you want to perceive it. If you even think, in a sense of wanting, it's more so about allowing yourself to teach yourself. So we're going from these different stages, and then we're eating ambient energy, and then we get to a point where we're producers. So the more you enable yourself to eat other souls, which is yourself, the more you stay in a cycle. So that's why I don't want to feed into that and watch people gaze into these crystal balls, feed into my likenesses, and then, this energy gets scattered, and the energy itself is responsibility. So the more responsible you are for energy, I'm dealing with it makes you Frankenstein when you're dealing with a bunch of energies, and a bunch of energies are all over the place, and it keeps you in 3D when you're managing other energies. It keeps you here. It's like you've got a bunch of cookies in your hand in a cookie jar, and you try and pull your hand out, and you can't because you got cookies all in your hand that's not letting you get your hand back. So basically, your soul is baiting souls to come in with social media, what have you, have all these 2D, because 2D is a lower hell than 3D. 3D is hell. 2D, social media, is a deeper lie, deeper illusion. Look at the shadow side of the Kabbalah, or Pautnateru, whatever you want to call that, the Tree of Life, whatever you want to call that thing. You can look at Thamael, which is the opposite of Kether, or opposite of Osar, whatever words you use for the monads. That's just pieces of life itself, that expressions of life, the shadow and light side, the roots and the branches. Some branches are underneath in the shadow, some branches are in the light. So it's all one tree of life. It's the body, in the 2D eyes, 3D eyes see what they see. You have many layers to the body. So you got the soul baiting other souls in, like help, help, help. Then your parasites eat those souls and eat you at the same time. It's just like anything in war. Somebody's injured, you wait for other people to come, and then you snipe them too. It's what it is. It's what parasites do. They want to feed and continue to feed and perpetuate the feeding. They want more hosts. Like come, yeah. So it's an infection. False values. That's an infection. You infect people with the idea of America and things like that. That's why changing the name of America would change everything. It would change the gematria. It would change the whole coding. But people want to maintain a name that has an idea behind it that is so parasitic and so offensive and incomplete. It's incomplete. It's just, lies don't digest. You know what I mean? IBS. Lies don't digest. So it's the false truths. It's the omission of truth that creates the festering of disease or disease. Because there's that silent part of you, which is the truth, knows everything. So with that said, that's the logic in ending the channel or making every video private except for the Sebi videos, because that's his material, and I gotta leave that up there. It's not really my choice in that sense. It's Sebi, I kind of gotta leave that up. So that's the one conflict there within myself. And again, that's what comes down to all problems is conflict within yourself, and then it creates external conflict. So it's just about creating the lie inside yourself as if there's separation between yourself at all. Lying to yourself is the first issue. So you can say that like the God in you or whatever, what have you, created a lie, whether to tempt itself or test itself, what have you, to show itself the light. Temptation, which is the only guide we have. It's the only torch we have, what not to do, especially in this 3D. We're never going to get direct instruction of what to do. We know what not to do, which is the instruction. So you have this God or entity, yourself, whatever you want to call it, that manifested a lie as if it could lie to itself. If you succumb to that sense of separation that you can lie to yourself, then you become more and more fragmented because you have something that's infinite, or you have something that is not even as something that you can't even express in words or letters and numbers and nothing like that. And you try to manifest separation through these words and letters and whatever you want to call it. And that manifests this idea of infinitude. Then infinitude births, what you would say, like, I guess, concepts. Then the concepts birthed the actuality. So you have infinitude, then you reduce the infinitude, and that creates an angle that self can perceive itself from, an angle or an angel or a monad on the tree of life. So then from there you further reduce, and that's reduction is production, negation is creation. So the reduction of perspective creates perspective. So that's why the video's got to go. It all has to go because you can't help people. No good deed goes unpunished. It's a solo path, a soul path. So that's why. And that's why the books will be there if you want to check them out under R Bud on Amazon.com. R Bud Vegan, search R Bud Vegan or R Bud Immanuel. That you can have paperbacks now. That's in the process of working out. The paperbacks are coming soon. Until then, you can get the PDFs by emailing royalt512@yahoo.com. But that's why. That's why it has to end. I cannot continue to let people feed and feed off of them, because I don't want the responsibility of your energy, because then I'm just continuing to vamp, and then I stay stuck the more that I have allocated to the 2D. Even if the likeness is taken in some database somewhere, it's still not being sent to people or people able to see it to where they can gaze into it and not. It basically disrespect the moment at hand that they have. It disrespects the moment at hand to gaze into these crystal balls or liquid crystal displays. So that's why.